Okay, we'll start with this. With the Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor rematch, just a few weeks away, reports indicate Katie Taylor will receive the largest payday in the history of women's boxing when she fights Amanda Serrano in a rematch on November 15th. Katie will make in excess of $6.1 million US dollars. The event's promoter is Jake Paul's MVP Promotions, to which Amanda Serrano herself responded, "Mine is bigger."
Who's getting more money may be subject to some debate, at least according to Amanda, but it's all kind of besides the point.
I've noticed that both Amanda and Katie jointly have become subject to some criticism in the buildup of what is their rematch, which we've talked about. I saw Chantel Cameron the other day doing the rounds on social media and talking about why a trilogy between them did not materialize.
Belly aching.
A little over a week ago, we saw Sky Nicholson go back to taking shots at Amanda.
Because you don't know she's moving up in weight, because you don't know she's fighting Katie Taylor, likely for the biggest purse a woman boxer has ever seen.
I want Katie and Amanda to make this money. I want Katie and Amanda to crack that glass ceiling that will make it possible, moving forward, for other women boxers to make that kind of money. That's what they're doing.
While their contemporaries criticize them.
So when the boxing community at large caught wind of Chantel Cameron's latest round of belly aching, that she's not fighting Katie for a second time, Chantel took to her social media and said, laughable at some of the bizarre things that people tweet. I'll never not speak the truth or be made to feel I can't speak out what I feel because people on socials behind a screen are coming at me. I'm not a marketing robot and will always hold my head high with this.
That's fine.
Hopefully the next generation of boxers can speak honestly and openly without trolls sending hate following a false narrative that has been created, all because I didn't be a yes woman. My job is to fight, not please social media saying the right things.
And maybe that's Chantel's truth, but that's not the truth overall.
It just isn't. When a Chantel Cameron criticizes Katie for not having a trilogy with her, you'd think that Katie Taylor were about to fight some rank amateur, some scrub. She's fighting one of the best fighters in the sport again. A fighter who some people think beat her, and if nothing else, came very close to knocking her out.
While you're criticizing.
And when an Amanda Serrano moves up from 126 up to 140 for one of the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the sport for money that was not otherwise available for a woman boxer, Amanda knows.
They always have to remove the context to criticize these fighters, to criticize Amanda, because she's not fighting Sky. But look at who she is fighting!
And look at what they're paying her to do it, that even if your appetite as a boxing fan isn't what it was for a Taylor versus Serrano rematch, the money alone that they're paying Amanda and Katie sets the precedent. This is the kind of money that was not otherwise available for a woman boxer, but a major platform in Netflix has taken that kind of interest in these two women, and you're expecting them to pass it up.
Remember that this is not a pay-per-view. This fight is going to be made available to all of Netflix's over 200 million subscribers as a part of their subscription. Getting to box in front of that many people for this kind of money, You're expecting Amanda to turn that down.
You're telling me that fighting Sky Nicholson for a belt Amanda already had, that's more important.
Are you a moron?
So when you break it down that way to the critics, there's not very much that they can say. They're not morons necessarily, so much as petulant children. They want what they want, irrespective of how illogical it is.
Go cry in the car.
That you think Amanda has anything to be ashamed of in not fighting Sky when she's fighting Katie again for this kind of dough.
On this kind of show.
They deserve it. They both deserve it, Katie and Amanda, for everything they've done for the sport. For Amanda, having been around as long as she's been around, when there were no major promoters pushing the women.
There was no money.
For Katie Taylor, making it possible for women boxers to box in the Olympic Games. It doesn't get said enough that the only reason a fighter like Clarissa Shields got to win 2 gold medals is because of Katie Taylor.
Katie was a big part of the reason the Olympic Committee decided to let women box.
The realm in which these critics live is devoid of context and devoid of reality. It stands apart from it. The reality of it is there's no reason for a woman boxer to shy away from an opportunity like this one. And it's not just an opportunity for them. It's an opportunity for women in the future to make purses just as big, if not bigger, by setting this precedent that with the right build-up and the right promotion and backstory,
they can make the same or more money as the men.
Isn't that what this is all about? Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Virgil Ortiz versus Jaron Ennis and Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez are being eyed as possible fights for the February 22nd Riyadh season show in Saudi Arabia. Ortiz and Rodriguez's trainer, Robert Garcia, has said. Rumor has it this is all intended to be part of a potential Saudi supercard where Anthony Joshua fights Daniel Dubois for a second time, Shakur Stevenson fights William Zepeda, Jaron Ennis fights Virgil Ortiz, Bam Rodriguez fights Chocolatito, and Yanni Beck fights against Hamza Shiraz.
Ambitious to say the least, and well worth the money if they decide to bill it as a pay-per-view. I'm buying.
But alas, I don't think all of these fights will materialize. I don't think they all will come into fruition. When I think about Bam Rodriguez versus Chocolatito, that one might.
Maybe.
So I heard something a few weeks ago about Chocolatito moving up from Superfly up to Bantam and potentially taking on one of the champions there. I heard about that. Though given what the Saudis are offering for a fight, career high money, great money, Chocolatito might forgo that to stay at Superfly and fight Bam.
He might.
Now, I would much prefer to see Bam face the winner of Kazuto Ioka versus Fernando Martinez too. If I had to choose, if it were up to me, that's who I would want to see Bam fight. Not necessarily an aging fighter with 1 foot halfway out the door in Choco. The issue is that fight between Kazuto and Fernando, well, that's supposed to be going down towards the end of this year. February 22nd may be too quick a turnaround for the winner of that fight.
But the winner of that fight is my first choice.
My second choice would be Fumilulu Kafu, who recently beat Kosei Tanaka for his WBO title in a super flyweight division. If it were up to me, he'd be fighting Fumilulu before he fights Chocolatito.
It's Fumalela.
The point is, I would rather see Bam in a unification match early next year than see him fight Chocolatito. Fighting Chocolatito would still leave the door open for the critics, the ones who say that while he does have a great resume, he's beating a lot of aging fighters, old fighters whose best days are behind them. I'd rather see him in a unification match than with Choco.
Fumalele's fight was earlier this month on the 14th. You figure that if he has all of November and all of December to recuperate and some of January, he can be ready by February. I would prefer to see that fight.
I feel like Bam needs to unify this division more than he needs to fight Chocolatito. Now, as far as a Jaron Ennis versus Virgil Ortiz fight, Robert Garcia may have expressed an interest in doing that, but I don't think that Oscar De La Hoya will let it happen.
Why do you think he was advocating for a Virgil Ortiz versus Errol Spence fight just the other day?
Errol Spence, who we haven't seen in the ring in over a year, and the last time we saw him, we all saw what happened. That's the kind of fight Oscar's looking for Virgil.
What does that tell you?
Virgil is currently the WBC's interim champion. He has a segue to fight for the WBC title against Sebastian Fundora, but you don't see Oscar pushing for that fight, or the Crawford fight. The fight that he wants for Virgil is Spence. So what does that tell you? What I think? I think Eddie, with the help of Turkey El Sheikh, will get another crack at the apple at maybe getting Jaron Ennis a unification match with one of the champions at this weight. Maybe Mario Barrios if he keeps his belt on the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul undercard, or maybe a Montestanionis if they don't find anything for him to do.
He doesn't seem to have a fight in the books. I think I heard a blurb about him fighting on Gervonta Davis's undercard, except now that fight is in question as to whether or not it's even going to happen this year.
Long and the short of it is that if a Montestanionis doesn't fight in what remains of this year, he might be available to unify titles with Jaron Ennis early next year for the kind of money he's looking for.
Too goddamn much?
We know that Eddie Hearn sent out offers to Mario Barrios and a Montestanionis, Brian Norman. Eddie Hearn by himself wasn't able to get it done because those guys want more money than what he's offering. In my opinion, they want too much.
The only guy that's willing to pay above market value to make fights that need to happen is Turkey LL Sheik. So maybe with his help, they can get a unification match done in February at welterweight, because I don't think Oscar is going to put Virgil in the ring with Jaron Ennis.
What about Zepeda with Stevenson?
So William Zepeda is going to be facing former IBF super featherweight champion Fevin Tarmer at lightweight on the undercard of Latino Night.
Zilliam Wapeda stands a good chance of winning that fight. I think that he does. His volume punching, his aggression, his power. If he wins that fight and wins it in good fashion, maybe, just maybe, they let him fight Shakur.
In my heart of hearts, I don't think either fight is likely to happen. Ennis versus Ortiz or Stevenson versus Zepeda. But if one of them is going to happen, I think it'll be Stevenson versus Zepeda.
Why do you think that Oscar would sooner make that fight than the other?
Because Shakur is coming off an injury and subsequent surgery, because by the time February gets here, he will not have fought in several months, and that's the right time to catch him.
Oscar's very strategic, and he doesn't match his own fighters here today the same way that he was matched in his heyday.
How long was he feeding Zerto Ramirez split peas and applesauce before he finally let him fight Dimitri Bivol? How long?
How many rickshaw drivers and stumble bums did he feed to Jaime Munguia before he eventually cashed him out with Canelio?
The matchmaking is not as ambitious for Oscar's fighters as it was for Oscar himself.
He's very careful now, but with Shakur Stevenson coming off that injury and the subsequent surgery, it might be the right time to let William have that fight, and if he does and he wins, well, that's a star-making...
It's a kingmaker.
I'm not sure that the both of those fights happen, Ennis versus Ortiz or Stevenson versus Zepeda, but if one of them is going to, I think it would sooner be Stevenson versus Zepeda.
Joshua versus Dubois?
Well, that's part of the rumor. Joshua versus Dubois would presumably be the main event of this Saudi supercard, but very recently Eddie Hearn casted an air of doubt as to whether or not that rematch would happen. He said, it would be frustrating if we made the Dubois rematch and Fury won, then we're sitting going, hang on, we're fighting Dubois, but we could have fought Fury in May for the biggest fight in boxing.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Eddie Hearn absolutely is. Anthony Joshua needs redemption with Daniel Dubois more than he needs to fight Tyson Fury, much more.
And what the hell makes you think that coming off that lopsided loss to Daniel Dubois, he'd be in any condition to fight and beat Tyson Fury? You fight Tyson Fury without running it back with Daniel, you must be cashing out.
Big fight? Absolutely. An opportunity to win 3 belts from Fury instead of just 1 from Daniel. So if you go about it this way, in this fashion, this sequence, it can't be because you plan on winning. It's just because the fight is worth so much money.
You're cashing out.
Copping out. You're giving up. You don't think you can beat Daniel. You don't think you can win the rematch, but you see an opportunity to fight Fury, and you take it because of the money.
That wouldn't be an encouraging omen if they went about it that way. AJ wanting to fight Daniel again, whether you think he wins or not, whether or not you like his chances, it's still encouraging because he wants his lick back. That shows that the fight is still in him.
Spiritually and psychologically, he hasn't checked out. If he can get another crack at the apple, he'll take it. That's how fighters' minds operate when they are fighters, when the fight is still in them. They want their lick back. If Anthony wants his lick back with Daniel, I think it's more important that he gets it than rushing him to fight Tyson Fury. Daniel Dubois feels Anthony Joshua has demons. He'll have a lot of demons playing on his mind. Who knows if people are talking him into it? I don't know. I know from my side, I'm ready to go out there and show the world I'm the king. That's unfinished business with Usyk. I want to get that one right. I want to do it properly and finish him. It will be a good fight, a unification. That's massive, Dubois said. Who wins? Nevertheless, Joshua has indicated his desire to run it back. That has been his mentality since losing against former fighters. Although that is a commendable thing, there is a risk that Joshua's brand will suffer even further. Another loss would create the narrative that he is no longer at the elite level.
The way that he lost, I don't think that's a narrative. That's how it looked.
You know, he's the Olympian. He's the one with the deep amateur background, the gold medal, the unified titles in the pros. I mean, he's the one that brought all of this experience to the table to then go out there, pull back in straight lines with his hands down, not at home, not protecting his face.
He never should have got hit with that right hand at the end of the first. I don't think he ever fully recovered from that.
But before there is anything to have to recover from, you let it happen. You were callous and cavalier. Did he not respect Daniel Dubois? Did he not respect his power that he fought him that way?
Only he knows the answer.
If they do run things back, Dubois will be confident that he can repeat the same result, having had a taste of what the Brit can offer. I think so. I think I would. I think I'd be a lot better again. It was a great show and it was a great Rocky-type fight, but next time, I believe I'll be more clinical, more sharp, and do everything better. Bear in mind, Anthony didn't even make it to the midway point.
He was stopped in 5, knocked down, what was it, 3, 4 times?
If he didn't already have demons going into the Daniel Dubois fight, he might have them now. And how you fight your demons, you confront them. You grab the bull by the horns and you take it on. You don't go around it. You don't circumvent them.
Eddie's talking about the potentiality of a Fury fight. That should be the last thing on your mind and his. You don't get the Fury if you don't take care of this first.
For Anthony Joshua, it would be a break in character and a break from what we expect. His marquee value, all that he's worth, has made it possible for him to incorporate rematch clauses into all of his fights. That's how he was able to get Ruiz in the ring again, Usyk in the ring again. If you decide to go the other way with Daniel,
the demon grows.
The monkey on your back gets stronger. You can't then go into a Fury fight with any hope of winning when the last time you were in the ring, you got annihilated, and you didn't settle it when you could have. I don't think Anthony's spirit as a fighter can really rest if he doesn't get another crack at the apple with Daniel.
I think he has to. Whether you like his chances or not, whether I like his chances or not.
Look at Teofimo Lopez. He never ran it back with George Kambosos. Now, most people will tell you that if there were a rematch, they'd go with Teofimo to win, but the reality is, there was no rematch. He never got his lick back, and I don't think he's ever been the same fighter since.
His haphazard performances, lackluster performances, are beginning to outnumber his good ones.
There's a monkey on his back that he never got off. It's the same for Anthony. I think he has to fight Daniel again. He has to.
He was so widely favored to win that fight, and it seemed like he had gotten his confidence back, that he can never get there again, not fully, if he doesn't try.
Do I think Anthony has the ingredients, the tools, to beat Daniel Dubois? I do. He's got all the right ingredients, but he's not putting them together. Psychologically, he's got to want it. And he's the one that's got to put it together. It's not up to Ben Davison and whoever else is in the corner. It's up to you!
Damn it!
You can have the pasta, the ragu sauce, the meatballs, and all the spices, but it don't mean nothing if you don't put it together.
You can have the ingredients, but it counts for nothing if you can't put them together.
So are you gonna make a lasagna or not?